Hello guys and welcome back to a page in the chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and today we're going to be ranking some spicy books. I am quite new to the world of adult romances and spicy romances. I've dabbled in a couple in previous years, but this year, this kind of, I want to say like March time is when I've really hit the groove with romances, and I've wanted to read romances all the time, not just in the summertime. I've just been on such a romance kick, and I've read quite a few this year. Not as many as some other people have. Let's bear in mind that I'm not the fastest of readers and there have been a couple slumps in there, but where I'm still quite new to the world of romance, across my entire lifespan, not counting fanfiction because how am I supposed to track that down, the amount of new adult spicy romances that I have read comes to the whopping total of 22, which also happens to be the age at which I am right now, so that is a very satisfying number. And today we're gonna rank every single one of them, because whilst it's still kind of a small number, let's just rank every single spicy romance I've ever read, and let's see if you agree or get a kind of recommendation from this. I don't really know what the purpose of this video is, I've just decided it's something we're gonna do. So if you guys like the sound of this video and you would like to see more, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for future content. I upload videos twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. And you can also check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Page in Chapter to keep up to date in real time of what I'm reading and how I'm reviewing it. Let's get into the video and I can explain the rankings that we're going with. So I do apologise because in any video where I have my laptop or I'm looking at a screen, I have to be wearing my glasses, and I do understand the light, my ring light reflected in the lenses is irritating. It irritates me when I'm editing, so I'm just going to try and keep this way so that no one gets annoyed hopefully, but I'm not just ignoring you. So the top tier ranking that we can have in this tier ranking system is Slap Me on the Ass and Call Me Daddy, and these are books that are just so spicy but also so good that you just want to worship them forever. And that is really all I need to say about that tier. And then for anyone not English watching this, you may not get this reference, but the second tier, the second best tier, is the Fanny Do Be Fluttering. Fanny Flutters are a Love Island UK thing. If you just look up Maura Higgins Fanny Flutters, it will come up. She was a contestant on Love Island, and that saying just kind of took the country by storm. The mid-tier rank is Tepid Water. It's gonna keep you alive in a drought. If you're dying, you're gonna drink it and you're gonna be fine with it, but no one willingly drinks tepid water. I mean, I work in a bar and some people do, but most people do not really care for just your plain old boring room temperature water. And that is representative of these books. The second to last tier is Mood Killer. There's just something about these books that kill any spicy mood, okay? There's just something about them that does not hit the spot. And then this last tier I created with one book in mind, and if you look at the options, you may already know what book that is, but this last tier is My Brain is Burning, and I wish someone would light my brain and my eyeballs on fire after reading this book. I cannot think of another book that deserves to go in this tier. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, the first book we have here is Twisted Games, which is book 2 in the Twisted series, but let's just start with Twisted Love, which is book 1 in the Twisted series. This book follows, oh my god, who does it follow? Ava, I think? Ava and Alex? Maybe that's them. I'm sure the girl's name is Ava. But it starts as a college romance. She starts to have a thing with her brother's best friend, but then it turns out he has some a lot darker intentions than any of them could have ever possibly guessed. But Ava and Alex's story is so prominent in the rest of the books that whilst you don't have to have read Twisted Love to read Twisted Games or Twisted Hate, I would recommend if you're going to read Twisted Hate, then you read Twisted Love first, because the stories are very interconnected. So I didn't mind Twisted Love, but it didn't like blow me away. So I'm gonna stick it in tepid water, because I would, you know, read it again in a pinch if I was desperate and I needed a romance book. I could read it again, but there's others I would probably go for, like Twisted Games will go in the Fanny Do Be Fluttering, because I really enjoyed Twisted Games. I will also put Twisted Hate in the Fanny Do Be Fluttering, because really enjoyed that one too. So all in all, I have quite good thoughts of the Twisted series. We have You and Me on Vacation. This one is a toss-up between Mood Killer and My Brain is Burning. I wouldn't say it burns my brain, so we'll just stick it in Mood Killer. So You and Me on Vacation is a friends to lovers romance written by Emily Henry, following our main characters who were best friends, went on holiday together every single year, but then have a big falling out one summer. And the book follows Poppy trying to convince Alex to go on one last trip with her, and they do, and the events of that holiday, whilst also you have flashbacks to the previous holidays that they've taken and like their previous relationships. It doesn't really take a genius to work out what this big like conflict that tore them apart really is. I didn't mind this book, but as soon as we got past the bit where Poppy and Alex were on holiday together in the present tense, the flashbacks every other chapter started to really, really grate on me, and I'm not entirely sure I'm a friends to lovers person, because I just found it boring watching their like friendship that's just not really a friendship take place in all these flashbacks. Like I didn't like it. If it could have just all taken place in the present tense with all of that like angst and tension, yeah, I would have liked that, but the flashbacks like absolutely killed the mood for me. I couldn't get into the spice anymore. Right, A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett Sinclair. This is like a fantasy romance. I've tried to keep a lot of fantasy romances out of this book. This is just purely contemporary romances. But A Touch of Darkness is like a bit of a weird crossover, so I've included it anyway. A Touch of Darkness is a Hades and Persephone story, but set in an urban fantasy type of world. So it's set in something called New Athens, and it's like the gods are more celebrities than they are gods. They come down to earth, they pose for pictures, they own clubs, and it follows Persephone, and she knows she's a minor goddess, but she doesn't want any of the Olympians to know she's a minor goddess. But then she gets wrapped up in a deal with Hades that's a bit of a problem for her. Where do I put this is the question. I am going to put this in the Fanny Do Be Fluttering. I actually really enjoyed A Touch of Darkness. It's not one you go into for the fantasy or for good writing, but it is one you go into for fanny flutters. It's just good, solid, fun romance, but there's not really any substance to it. Do with that what you will. And then A Touch of Malice is the third book. We have A Touch of Ruin and A Touch of Malice. I can't quite remember which way round they go. I think A Touch of Ruin is the second book, which will go into Mood Killer. Again, tempting to put it in My Brain is Burning. It was just very boring, and then A Touch of Malice will go into Tepid Water. I only really recommend A Touch of Darkness. I wish I'd saved myself the time with the rest of the series. The Love Hypothesis. Slap me on the arse and call me daddy. This was the book that started it all. If I had not been like convinced, I think mostly by Rachel's review and Rachel wanting to buy the Fairy Loot edition, I think it was, of this book, I don't know if I would have picked it up, but because the whole like TikTok sensation thing threw me off. But this book was so good, and it has one of the longest spicy scenes I've ever read. It's a good like 10-15 pages, a whole chapter length. Like, it is spicy. It's a fake dating trope, which is my favourite trope in the entire world. It doesn't really make sense in terms of the context of this academic setting, because if they were actually fake dating, I'm assuming her professor would lose his job. In terms of women in STEM representation, it's not the best representation I've ever seen, and it doesn't really convince people that they would want to go into STEM. I did love the way the academic setting was integrated into this book. I will be reading more Ali Hazelwood books, and honestly, The Love Hypothesis is one of my favourite romances of all time, so I'm aware it has issues. I think it would be very hard to find a romance book that has absolutely no issues whatsoever, so you know. And so then we have the Brown Sisters trilogy. I have only read the first two, Get a Life Chloe Brown and Take a Hint Dani Brown, so it kind of is what it says it is. It is a trilogy that follows these three sisters as they find love. Get a Life Chloe Brown is kind of like a bucket list trope. She writes a bucket list of things she wants to experience, and she ropes her neighbour Red into helping her complete that list. And then Take a Hint Dani Brown is fake dating, with Dani Brown being a lecturer at a university and fake dating with one of the other people who work there. Take a Hint Dani Brown and The Love Hypothesis are like quite closely linked. Get a Life Chloe Brown for me is a mood killer. It's kind of between tepid water and mood killer. For the most part it's tepid water, but I'm putting it in mood killer just because the kind of like second act conflict takes place so late in the book, and Red has so many red flags that I just didn't really believe in their relationship by the end of it. Like, they make up like on the last page, and it wasn't enough for me to believe that there had really been any kind of character development there. And it was an okay story, but I would never ever reread it again. So like some of the ones in Tepid Water I would reread in a pinch. I'd never ever go to Chloe Brown again, so that's why I'm putting that in mood killer. Take a Hint Dani Brown, however, gets to go in Tepid Water, because I would reread that one again. For me, it is not as good academic fake dating as The Love Hypothesis is, but the spice is enjoyable, the overall plotline is enjoyable. I don't know, the Brown Sisters books I have read so far just don't seem to stay with me. I don't mind them when I'm reading them, and then afterwards I'm a bit like, I don't know if I would ever really go for that one again, so I wish I could give it a better review. Okay, so then we have the Dirty Air series by Lauren Asher. So I am a big Formula One fan. I am currently filming a Formula One fan reads the Dirty Air series, so you can know whether it's good from that perspective or not, but here's just a little hint. They are both, so far, slap me on the ass and call me daddy. I would never, like, I love these books. I will reread them all the time. The problem at first with Throttled, but I'm not going to mark it down for this because it's not really Throttled's fault, is that as a big Formula One fan, I was really looking for similarities between the book and real life and trying to figure out who the characters were like inspired by, and that was a bit difficult. But once I overcame that and saw it as its own fictional world with its own fictional characters and teams, I was flying. I loved it. I can read these books in one sitting, just adore them. Okay, The Spanish Love Deception. This book wasn't what this category was like designed for. This wasn't the book I was talking about, but it does fit. I cannot stand The Spanish Love Deception. You all lied to me. You are a liar, actress. Go the fuck out with this book, okay? It's terrible. This book is a enemies to lovers fake dating office romance where they go to Spain, but the Spain bit is like half a chapter, and it's called The Spanish Love Deception. And as you can tell by that description, it tries so hard to be all of those things that it fails at all of them. There's no reason to believe that they would be enemies in the first place, and it's very clear from the get-go that our male love interest does not want to be enemies and is like head over heels in love with her, to the point that it's actually really fucking creepy. Like, he is really towing that boundary between lover and stalker, and I struggle to find like one bit that I liked about this book, and yeah, my brain is burning. I want to get rid of it. The Un Honeymooners. The Un Honeymooners is probably the oldest book on here. I know that, I remember that it is Maid of Honor and Best Man are the only two at the wedding to not get food poisoning, so they have to go on the honeymoon so that the bride and groom don't lose the money on it. It seems a little bit unrealistic, but I remember really liking it, so I am going to put it in the Fanny Do Be Fluttering. I remember it was April 2021. I was in the worst reading slump I've ever been in like my entire life. But even during that, I did manage to finish the Un Honeymooners, so it gets props for that. Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover is the reason my brain is burning was created. This is quite possibly the worst book I've ever read in my entire life. And a literal quote from this book is, "We stood there and laughed at our son's big balls," or something like that. So the book follows like two romances essentially. It follows Tate and Miles. It follows Tate and Miles in the present day, and it follows Miles and his ex-girlfriend in the past, and we see why he's so traumatized by his past relationship that he can't be in one with Tate. And trust me, I was more traumatized than anyone by that past relationship. My brain is literally burning. Please someone try and erase it from my brain. I'll never get that time back. The fine print goes in the Fanny Do Be Fluttering, and Terms and Conditions goes in Slap Me on the Arse and Call Me Daddy. So this is another of Lauren Asher's romance series. Apparently I'm a big Lauren Asher fan. It follows brothers who are like the grandsons of this Walt Disney type figure, and in order to inherit their part of the company, they have to complete tasks that he's laid out for them in his will. So in the fine print, our main character has to go to Dream World, which is Disney World, and work there for 6 months. And in Terms and Conditions, our main character Declan has to get married and have a child within a certain time span. So he has a fake marriage with his secretary. As we can see, like, I do have a clear favourite. As much as I loved the Dream World Disney setting of the fine print, the actual romance and angst and tension in Terms and Conditions just really sold it to me. and loved that. Then we have Punk 57, which is going in Slap Me on the Arse and Call Me Daddy. I am obsessed with Punk 57. It is a high school bully romance, and it is so good. Penelope Douglas books haven't actually like hit that well with me since. This was like, I would categorize Punk 57 as one of my favorite romances of all time, so I really wanted to just read the rest of Penelope Douglas's work, but so far it's not really hitting the same, sadly. It Happened One Summer is going in the Fanny Do Be Fluttering. Tessa Bailey writes spicy scenes very well, and this is a Schitt's Creek inspired rom-com where you have an Alexis inspired character called Piper, and she is sent away to this small town in Washington, I believe, to get back in touch with her roots and stop being such a spoiled brat. And in that small town she meets our love interest, who I think is called Brendan, but please don't hold me to that. And what I love about this book is that he loves her because of her quirks and eccentricities and like kind of spoiled behaviour, and not in spite of those things. And I think Tessa Bailey does that really well. She really kind of sells you on this small town, and I just really love the fact that Piper goes through a character development that doesn't involve her changing at all. Like, she still loves to shop, she still is quite like frivolous, but you start to see that she has more to her. She's not changing herself, you're just seeing she has other layers, and it was a character development that I really loved. And yes, the spicy scenes were indeed very spicy. And so then we have the 3 books from the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy that I have read, and these are the last ones. So the Off-Campus series is a new adult university setting hockey team romance series that each follows a member of the hockey team at this university. So the deal, I don't really remember the deal, but it's going in Tepid Water. It was alright, but it didn't really make me want to read on, you know, like I kind of dip into the Off-Campus series when I'm really in the mood for a new adult romance, but the deal didn't really sell me on the series. The spice was fine, there's some trigger warnings in that book, it was just all very fine. And then we have The Mistake, and The Mistake was one that did actually really kind of sell me, but I'm torn between the Fanny Do Be Fluttering and Tepid Water. Okay, I'm gonna actually move the deal down to Mood Killer and put The Mistake in Tepid Water, because I don't think The Mistake is as good as any of the books in the Fanny Do Be Fluttering, but The Deal was worse than The Mistake, so I don't feel comfortable putting them in the same bracket. The Mistake just had some like little details that hooked me. It wasn't so much about the overall plotline, which I now don't really remember, but there was just little details that really kept me interested in our main characters' connection to each other, and I enjoyed that. And yes, I would actually like reread this one again. I'd probably want to continue with the series or find other new adult college romances, but I would reread The Mistake, and that is why it gets to go in tepid water. And then the score I'd say is on par with The Mistake. It was better in different ways. And what I loved about the score was its ending was astronomical. Was like earth-shattering, ended on a cliffhanger, made me desperately want to continue with the series and read the next book. So definitely like a step up from The Deal. But in terms of like actual romance, again, like Elle Kennedy just does like these little details that really keep you hooked, and like they're such small things, but you're like, oh, like like it's just a little bit of spice to the storyline that just keeps you like you know. So this is my tier ranking of all of the spicy new adult romances that I have read. If you would like me to do any more genres, that might be a little difficult. But I would happily do this again because I actually had a lot of fun, and it's really fun to see it like all laid out. As we can see, I'm really not that picky with my romances. The Fanny Do Be Fluttering was the most common one, and Slap Me on the Arse and Call Me Daddy was also quite a popular one. I do tend to really like the romance genre. So yeah, all of these spicy romances, not all of them, there's 2 that don't have their perks, but you know, the rest of them from Mood Killer up do have their perks. And yes, do with this information what you will. It's probably completely unhelpful to you, but I've had a great time with this video, so there we go. The glasses are off now, so I can actually like look at you. Sorry if it came across as rude, but I just find the reflection kind of irritating. I do hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. Do please leave me some of like where you might put some of these books, in which category, down in the comment section. And if you have any books that are in the Slap Me on the Arse and Call Me Daddy category, or the Fanny Do Be Fluttering category, then please leave those recommendations down in the comment section. I need more romances in my life, okay? I really, really do. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, you got something from it. Do let me know if you want to see any more kind of tier ranking style videos. I've had way more fun with it than I expected to. I get why these videos are so popular now. If you guys did enjoy this video, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for bookish content every Wednesday and every Friday without fail, except sometimes I do fail because that is human nature. And also do feel free to check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Page and Chapter to see what I'm reading and how I'm reviewing it in real time. And so, sadly, we have come to the end of this video. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, you're enjoying everything that you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future, and I will see you for my next video. Bye guys.